Now for a check with a man who knows on what we should look for. The legislature goes into its final week. Joining me, News Channel 5 political analyst Brian Crowley, who spent many a spring in Tallahassee. You've closely watched the Lake Okeechobee issue. You heard what Mr. Eichenberg had to say. Your take on what will happen?
Well, any progress is a good thing, and it does seem like we still have a week left and anything can happen. Actually, just a few days, because they have to get the budget done earlier than the end of the session. But, you know, so far it looks very, very promising. And now, if that happens, the next big step will be getting federal dollars, which I think may be a little bit more complicated than getting state dollars. But I don't expect the governor will veto this. I think he understands that he needs to do something with the lake.
The lake and Everglades restoration, such a complicated issue. It's still a huge overall lift, getting where environmentalists and business interests can agree on the overall architecture deep into the future on the lake. We're going to continue to see political fights on this one way or the other, even when you win on one action or another.
And I think it's important for viewers to understand that in building this reservoir, it is not the be-all and end-all of saving the Everglades, ending the algae blooms. It is a vital step that environmentalists and scientists have said needs to be done. So it's critical that this is getting done. But people should not believe that this is the total solution.
Well, we talked about urban runoff, septic runoff. What do you do in other parts of the
growth.
lake? Growth.
Enormous growth going out west.
Nobody wants to talk about the growth in Florida.
We tend to want to blame ag and the sugar industry in particular, and there's certainly a lot of blame to go there from past things, but we tend not to look at the things that we're doing with development, other things that also contribute to the problem.
And I should rephrase that when I say no one wants to talk about it, but ag and sugar interests have argued that more needs to be said about that aspect of it as well.
Absolutely.
Governor Scott looking two programs. It's been interesting this whole session. You've got attracting tourists, Visit Florida, Enterprise Florida. The House Speaker has put his foot down, said it's a waste of money. Governor Scott's had ads airing saying we need the money for these programs. Doesn't look at the moment like he's going to get it. What happens? What's it mean politically? And what about this drama that's played out as a subset of the whole session?
Yeah, I have to join the skeptics about the money for Visit Florida and Enterprise Florida. You know, I think, I may be wrong, but I think the gazillion-dollar companies of Disney World and Universal and Hilton and Marriott, I think they tend to do okay. I don't think it.
Some of the smaller agencies have told me, though, they could use the help. What about that?
Well, sure. Anybody will take money that's given to them. Sure. I mean, if you're the local, you know, Discover Palm Beach kind of people, and you're going to get some money from the state, of course you're going to take it and want to use it, and it will have a small impact on your budget. Do I think it has a big impact on bringing people here? No. For some reason, Governor Scott has decided to stake a part of his fame on this particular item, and I think it might be futile for him in the long run.
Well, to follow up on that, how big an impact politically for Scott, whatever way this goes?
Actually, I think if it gets defeated, Scott will continue to. I think he will try to use it either way. If he gets the $100 million plus that he wants, which doesn't look likely at this point, he'll say great victory for the governor's office and for him, and we're creating jobs. If he loses, I think he'll blame others for hurting Florida, and he's going to continue the fight.
Big winners, losers, any surprises that our viewers at home should look for, pocketbook-wise or social issues or otherwise, gun advocates, stand your ground, anything you want people to key on over the next week?
I think one of the under the radar issues that's taking place even as we speak is that the legislature is going after public records and open meetings in a big way. On Friday, they passed additional legislation that would further cut Floridians' access to their right to know what's going on in their government. This has been a trend going on for a number of years now, and it's getting worse. And for some reason, there's some folks in the legislature who feel like the public business is none of Floridians' business.
And it affects everyone's safety, security, pocketbooks.
Absolutely.
That is not an issue, a sideline issue for anyone. It's not a media issue. It's a public right to know, safety, security issue. One final thought. Florida Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat, of course, fighting President Trump's plan that could open up oil drilling off the Florida coast. Talk about that.
There's an issue where Bill Nelson can do nothing but win. Floridians overwhelmingly oppose any kind of oil drilling off the coast. There's some oil drilling that's been going on for decades in Collier County, and there's a chance that that's going to be expanded. But any notion of oil drilling off Florida's beaches is going to get a lot of opposition from Floridians.
It's going to be interesting as we talk about shaping up this potential and likely race between Nelson and Rick Scott. Governor Rick Scott. We'll talk more about that in the coming weeks. We'll be back with your closing thoughts in just a moment.